Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. I'm Erica Parker, your queen of real estate. I'm a fellow investor and a realtor, and I love sharing my unique perspective with all of you. Today we're discussing the second R in the BRRRR method, which is rent. Starting off, you want to choose your renting strategy. Now your choices are for rent by owner, realtor, or property management company. Now for rent by owner is what we're going to mostly delve into, but if you choose a realtor, it's really to take a lot of that time off your plate in sifting through applicants, going to showings, listing it on the MLS, also doing background checks. All of that is something that a realtor can take on. A property management company also does that. Now the fee for that is a first month's rent is usually going to the realtor or the property management company when they do lease it out. A property management company, in addition, also manages throughout the year, so they do charge an additional fee on top of that every month for dealing with the tenants and dealing with evictions and tenants and toilets and everything else that may come up on the property during that time. Now, I don't necessarily recommend going with a property management company until you've reached a certain amount or if you live in another state. So a property management company is great for if you are living out of state and you have rental properties here in Texas or another state, or if you have more than 10 doors. But before that, if you can handle it, I do say try and handle it because they do cost quite a bit in the grand scheme of things. For rent by owner, then you want to use Zillow Rental Manager and Facebook to list your property. Another option is also going with Listing Spark. They do charge a flat fee for that first month and then a certain amount thereafter. That first month's a little bit more, but it includes professional photos. And I do recommend you get professional photos done. Go ahead and spend the $100 if you aren't using Listing Spark, but Listing Spark will put it on the MLS, which is also nice. But I will say that if you do rent by yourself, go ahead and pay that additional $100 to get professional photos because photos do sell or do rent a property for you. Zillow does have an application manager where the people can actually apply through Zillow and they'll do a background check through Zillow. I don't recommend using that. I don't particularly like the information that Zillow provides. It's not comprehensive enough. I do recommend using either My Smart Move or Lease Runner for your background checks. Another thing that's really nice about Lease Runner is I believe they also include a lease form. And that's the next thing I'm gonna go into is a realtor will likely use the TREC lease form and all the addendums that need to go with that, if it's the flooding addendum or the lead-based paint addendum disclosure, any of those that are needed for the rental property, that is disclosed. A property management company may have their own lease form and their own requirements of what a tenant needs to meet to then be leased the property. I want you to determine your guidelines and your rules for your tenants so that they know what is going to be expected of them. So if pets are allowed, if you are going to allow smoking on the premises or not. I don't recommend it. It goes into all the walls, but if you do, at least ask them to only smoke outside. Some of the other ones are how many guests can stay on the property and for how long, and how many vehicles are allowed on the property. I also recommend looking over any HOA rules because they may have specific rules that a tenant needs to abide by or anyone that lives in that particular community needs to abide by. So you want to make sure that you include those in your required rules. And finally, you also want to make sure that you determine whether you're going to require the renter to carry renter's insurance. And that usually covers personal belongings inside the property because you, as the landlord, will probably only get insurance that has to do with the building and or liability insurance if something were to happen to a guest or a renter in the property. Include those rules in the lease or as an addendum to the lease and have it signed by your tenant so that you know that, and the tenant knows and has agreed to follow these rules. The next one is the insurance coverage. When you were in the rehab process, you were likely had builder's risk insurance, and you want to see if that particular insurance is still good for having renters in there and the liability coverage that you need in there, or if you need to change it to something else. Sometimes it can go both ways, but sometimes there's a higher liability or a higher risk in a builder's insurance, or builder's risk insurance, because it's a vacant property versus a rental property that's not vacant. So you definitely want to talk to your insurance provider and your agent to see what is covered in that sense. But you need to be able to determine the cost benefit of waiting for a higher rent. So you've got one tenant potentially that can start ASAP, but they're offering $50 lower than what your list price is. So $50 a month lower. And then you have a second tenant that can start in 2 weeks, but they're offering you at rent or at list price, so there's no downward adjustment. Now, on the surface, you might say, okay, this person's offering me my list price, 2 weeks isn't that long. If I stay on the market any longer, then I might miss out on using him, so I'm gonna go ahead and lease to this person. But here's the problem. Now say your rent, I see these numbers pretty often, so these are real world numbers. Say your rent is around $2,000. If you agree to a $50 less per month rent, then you're agreeing to $1,950, and you're gonna make $600 less than you expected for that next year. So if you take 50 times 12, that's $600. Now, if you wait 2 weeks and get it for $2,000, yes, you're going to make $2,000 a month, and you're going to make that for that full year, but you're gonna have missed out for that 2-week period. So that 2-week period for a month, that's on average 4 weeks, we'll say, you're actually giving up $1,000 that you could have earned during that 2-week period. So that's the difference. If you go ahead and go with that first person that's willing to start right now for $50 less, then you actually might be saving yourself $400. This person offers $50 less, but say that they're willing to be in the property for 18 months, and this person offers $2,000 but is willing to start now. So we'll just say this. They're willing to start now, and they're offering $2,000, but they're only willing to be in there or sign on for 12 months. Well, here's the thing. You don't know if they're going to stay in that property. This person that's offering 18 months, they're willing to stay in there 18 months. If you are using a realtor, then you may want to go with the person that's offering 18 months, because you're actually saving in the long run an extra $1,000 that you're not having to pay to the realtor for that 6-month process, because you're always having to pay a realtor the first month's rent. And so for 6 additional months, you don't have to rent it out again. So that's actually saving you $1,000. So you definitely want to know how to run that cost benefit analysis on waiting for a higher rent. So I hope this information was helpful. If so, give it a big thumbs up so others will see it. Also, click that subscribe button to see other videos that I drop on this channel. And go ahead and drop a comment if you liked this information, or if you want to see anything else from me. Thanks. I'll talk to you soon. Bye for now.